Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are good. This is Miss Sayyida Khushbakht Batul. So basically, I have an OA levels background. I did my bachelor's in maths from NUST, and I'm a passionate teacher. So currently, I'm taking NET, LCAT, SAT, and all other NT test classes at Mega Lecture. If you guys are interested in online classes, you can get yourselves enrolled by the link which is shared in the description box. So let's get started, right? Today we will discuss some SAT past paper questions. Okay, so let's talk about the very first question. Okay, let me zoom in a bit just so the question is clear. Right, okay. So we'll discuss this question first. If s plus t is 3, what is the value of s plus t minus 6? Now, obviously, this is a very easy question. They have told that s plus t is 3. So simply we need to plug in 3 instead of s plus t. We have minus 6. So this would be minus 3. So clearly A is the answer. Now for SAT, if you come across such easy questions, I would advise you not to spend more than 20 to 30 seconds, because you'll come across some difficult questions as well where more time would be required. Okay, so we are done with the first question. Let's talk about the second question now. On the cube in the figure above. Now, before reading the rest of the question, one thing should be clear. This is a cube. So it means that every side of this figure, of this cube, would be equal, right? Because cube, in case of a cube, every side is equal, right? So like all these sides are equal. So we know that, right? Because it's a cube. Okay. On the cube in the figure above, each of the following points is the same distance from P as it is from Q, except. Okay. So students might get confused because the statement is a bit confusing, but what they're trying to say is that each of the following points, let's talk about A point, right? This is A point. They're saying that the distance of A point to P and Q is same, except like we need to choose that point whose distance from Q and P is different. If I talk about A point, let me use yellow color for A point. So this is the distance from P and this is the distance from Q. So since every side of this cube or any cube is same, this means that these two sides are same. So here we are looking for except. Okay, the distance from A to P and A to Q is same, so A cannot be our choice. Let's talk about the B option now. Let me use a different color for this. Okay, now this is B point, and if I talk about the distance of B from P, we have two sides. And if I talk about the distance of B from Q, again, we have two sides. Now, since it's a cube, every side has same distance. If we have two sides from B to Q, and if we have two sides from, sorry, if we have two sides from B to P, and if we have two sides from B to Q, this means that the distance would be same. Now, let's talk about C option. Okay, I'll rub all this because it would it's becoming a bit confusing. Right, now let's talk about C point. Okay, its distance from point Q is one side, but its distance from point P is 1, 2, 3 sides. Now clearly C is the point uh, which does not have same distance from P as it is from Q. This is one side, and till P we have three sides. So C would be the choice, because here we were looking for except. Okay, so be very careful with the wordings of your question. Okay, now we have to discuss the third question. Okay, so here's the third question. I'll zoom out a bit. Okay, so here basically we have a bar graph as well as a pie chart. So let's read the question. The bar graph above shows where fraud is committed on the internet. Which of the following circle graphs, okay, these circle graphs are also called pie graphs, most accurately displays the same data? Okay, let's study the bar graph first. So the bar graph says that we have 78% for websites, right? Okay, 78%. Okay, if I give you a quick idea of a bar or of a pie chart, if this is a circle and if I break it down into four parts, this part is 25%. Let me just write down the percentages instead of stating it. Right, so this part is 25%, then this is 25, again this is 25, and this is 25 as well, right? So for website, we have 78%. If we have 78% for website, it means that this, all these three sides are 75, and we would need tiny bit of 3% just to get 78%, right? So on the basis of website only, let's cross out the options. Now clearly A cannot be the choice because this till this part, if all this was shaded, this would have been 75. So here it is not even 75, so certainly it cannot be 78. So A cannot be the choice, right? Again, if I talk about B option, the website part, which should have been 78%, is in fact less than 75, right? So this cannot be the choice as well. So B cannot be the answer, A cannot be the answer. Okay, let's talk about the C choice. Okay, for the C choice, it looks like that website is 78%, right? So we are good with the website, but let's see the other categories as well. So for email, we have 18%. For new groups, we have 2%, and for other, we have 2%. So in C option, we do not have anything for other, right? For other. There's no section for others, so clearly C cannot be the choice. Let's talk about D option now. Again, I'll zoom out a bit. Right, so this is the D option. Okay, in the option, yes, website looks like that it is 78% because it is more than 75. And new groups and other, like this part and this part, they are same, which should be 2% and 2%. It looks like that. And for email, it should be 18%. And it certainly looks like D is the answer. Now, one thing which you should know clearly, that in chat you have MCQ section and then there's the gradient section, right? For the MCQs, you have choices. Whenever you are not being able to understand the question directly, you can use your options. You can just, cross out the wrong options, and the one which you are left with at the end would be the answer, right? So this is also a very plus point of SAT. Okay, so we're done with the third question as well. Let's talk about the fourth question now. Okay, the numerator, we are in this question. The numerator of a certain fraction is 5 less than the denominator. Now, before reading rest of the question, let's just understand the first statement, okay? So numerator is 5 less the denominator. Now, let's say I have a fraction where denominator is x, and since numerator is 5 less the denominator, so I can write down x minus 5, okay? Now, if I look at this fraction right here, the denominator is x and the numerator is 5 less than x, okay? So we are clear with the first line. If the fraction is equal to 3 by 4, okay, now this fraction which we have made by reading the information given, they're saying that if this fraction is equal to 3 by 4, let's just do that. What is the value of the denominator of this fraction? Okay, so we need to find the denominator of like this fraction. We need to find this x. So it's very clear. We have an equation where we just have one variable. We can easily do that by making x the subject of our equation. So we have to cross multiply. When we cross multiply, I'll multiply 4 with x minus 5, and I'll multiply x with 3. So I have 3x. I have 4x minus 20 equals 3x. I'll take this 3 to this side, so I'll have 4x minus 3x equals 20. So this implies that x is equal to 20. So D is the answer. Now here, clearly I started off with the question by converting the information which was given in English by writing mathematical equations, right? So I would strongly advise you guys that whenever you are solving a question, don't keep things in your mind. In fact, write them mathematically. As soon as I read this line, the numerator of a certain fraction is 5 less than the denominator, I immediately wrote this fraction, right? Just so I don't have things in my mind. In fact, I have them on paper in front of me. Okay. Oh, all right. So we are done with 4 questions. Let's talk about the 5th question now. Here it is. I'll zoom out. Okay. Okay. Now the question says, in the figure above, the scale on the x-axis is different. Obviously, in x-axis we have it in Ks. From the scale on y-axis we have the simple scale, like we have 1 2 3 4 5 6, and on the x-axis we have k 2 k 3 k. So scale is different. Okay, that's quite obvious. If the area of the triangle ABC, now this obviously is a triangle that I have shaded with orange marker, is 18, what is the value of k? Okay, so they are saying that area of the triangle is 18. Let's just write down the area. So for area, the formula is 1 by 2 base into height. Now we need base. Base is this distance, AC. So if this is 5k and if this is 2k, certainly my base would be 5k minus 2k, right? Because the x coordinate of point C is 5k and the x coordinate of A point is 2k, right? We are done with the base. We need to write down the height. So height would be from 2 to 6, that is 4. And this area is equal to 18, okay? So now we have 3k into, this is 1 and this would be 2. I can cancel out these. This is 2 equals 18. Now simply the question was to find the value of k. I can easily do that. I have an equation where I only have one variable. So by making k the subject of the equation, I'll take 6 here. This is 18. And clearly I can divide 6 on the other side. So I will get k equals 3. Okay, so E is the answer, right? Again, in this question, I did not waste time in keeping things like in my mind. I just used formulas directly to get my answer. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the 6th question. Okay. So you guys can ask me if you have any questions through the comment section, right? I'll be answering you guys there and then. Okay. All right. I just need a second. I need to open the comments as well. Right. Okay. So now I can see live chat as well. If you guys want to ask me anything, you can ask me there and then I'll answer you immediately. Okay. All right. Now the 6th question is, if M and K are positive and this is the equation, what is M to the minus 1 in terms of K? Okay. Now this question is very simple. They have used some difficult wordings. You need to find M to the minus 1. You need to find M to the minus 1 in terms of K, right? So we have to do that by using this equation. Okay, let's do that. Clearly, I have 10m square k to the minus 1 equals 100m. Now I can cancel this m and this 2, right? And now I have 10 m k to the minus 1 equals 100. Okay. Now I do not need m. This question is very easy, but it's not that straightforward. I do not need m. I need m to the minus 1, right? So I need to make m to the minus 1 the subject. Here I have m. I'll take it to the right hand side and I'm going to get k minus 1 equals 100 m to the minus 1. Now, obviously, since I need to find m to the minus 1 in terms of k, I need to take this 100 to this side, that is the left side, and I will have 10 divided by 100, k to the minus 1 equals m to the minus 1, right? Now I can simply cancel out this 110 and I'm left with k to the minus 1 divided by 10. Now, if I look at the options, I do not have any option which has k to the minus 1 in numerator and 10 in the denominator. This means that I need to take this k in the denominator. So, I am going to get 1 over 10 to the k, because if numerator has negative power, it would become positive if I take it to denominator. So, this is m to the minus 1 in terms of k. So clearly, D is the answer. Right. So we are done with the sixth question as well. Okay, now let's discuss the seventh question. Okay, let me zoom in a bit. Right. So the seventh question says Edna and Nancy leave the house of a common friend at the same time and walk for 4 hours. Okay, so like we have two girls, Edna and Nancy, who leave the house of a common friend at the same time and walk for 4 hours. Edna walks due east at the average rate of 4 kilometers per hour. Okay, so like let's draw this point for Edna. So this basically is a vector which has 4 kilometers per hour. Okay, so she's walking with the speed, and Nancy walks due north at average rate of 3 kilometers. So let's draw for Nancy here. This is for Edna and this is for Nancy. And she is walking towards north, right? With the speed 3 kilometers per hour. Okay, so we have basically written all this English in a mathematical way by using vectors. Okay, now let's just read the question part. So the question part is, what is the straight line distance between them in kilometers at the end of 4 hours? Now we need to find the straight line distance. Okay, so here if we talk about vectors, and if we are interested in finding the straight line distance, we need to use the head to tail rule. So if this vector was for Edna, this one, and if this is for Nancy, this is the head of first vector. I am going to draw the second vector right here. So this basically is 4 and this is 3. And I need to find this right here, right? I need to find this distance. Okay. So this is going to be, okay. Now, one thing should be clear. This is 4 kilometers per hour. And this is 3 kilometers per hour. Here, these are speeds. In question, you need to find distance. Okay, so be very clear with that part. So this means that I need to convert these speeds into distance. How am I going to do that? Now, these are speeds. I have been told with the time, like I have the time as well, and I can easily use the speed formula. So speed is basically distance over time. For 4 kilometers per hours into 4, because time is 4, that has been given. This is given, right? If this is speed, And if t is 4, distance is going to be 16 kilometers. Okay, so this vector is 16 kilometers long. And if I talk about for the other one, for this one, I am going to use again the same formula, s equals d by t. So s is 3 into 4 because t is 4 and d is 12. Okay, so this is 12. Okay, now it's very clear. This was east, this is north. Clearly, these two are perpendicular. I have 90 degrees angle. This side is 16, the other side is 12. I need to find the side. I can find the side using the Pythagoras theorem. So let's call it x side, right? So x square is equal to 16 square plus 12 square. So clearly x would be 20, right? If you do it on calculator, you'll get x equals 20. So E is the answer. Now this question was like not that difficult, but yes, it is more time taking. So here is the time which you'll be using. Like here's the time which basically you have to be very careful while doing your questions, because for some questions less time is needed. Do not waste your time for those questions. But whenever you come across a question that requires more time, just allocate good enough time, right? Okay, so let's talk about the eighth question now. Okay, it's right here. Okay, I need to zoom out a bit clearly. Okay, so the figure above shows the graph of a quadratic function f that has a minimum point at 1 1. Okay, now before reading rest of the question, let's just talk about this graph. Now here they are saying that this graph is a quadratic functions graph, which is quite obvious. It is a parabola, we know that. Okay, but here we do not know its equation. Okay, so this is the minimum point, which is 1 1. So the equation of this, like if it was at this point, like if the minimum point of was 0 0, the equation would have been y equals x squared, right? But obviously if SAT things are not that straightforward, so this is not the equation. Your minimum point is 1 1, so let's just find the equation for that. So it would be y equals x minus 1 square plus 1. And why is it like that? Okay, I'll tell you. It's this because clearly when x is 0, like when x is 0, your y is going to be, let's just do it. For x equals 0, y is going to be minus 1 square plus 1. That is 2. Okay. And when y is 0, we are going to get this part, right? So clearly using these basics, I have calculated this equation. I know that my minimum point is not 1 1. My minimum point is not 0 0. It's not origin, it's 1 1. So clearly my equation of the parabola would not be y equals x squared, right? So through this logic, I have just written down the equation. So far, I don't know if I would be using this or not. But obviously, since I'm teaching you guys here, so I am explaining some extra stuff as well, right? Okay. So we have the equation of our quadratic curve. Okay. Now, the question is if FB is F3, okay, which of the following could be the value of B? Okay, perfect. Now, this is Y, this is F, right? F and Y are same. And FB, F of B would be b minus 1 whole square plus 1, right? This would be f of b, and f of 3 is going to be, I need to plug in 3 instead of x. That would be 3 minus 1 square plus 1. So this is going to give me 4 plus 1, and this is 5. Okay, perfect. So let's use this part. F of b equals f of 3. This is f of b. This is f of b because it is same as this equation, but instead of x, I have b. So since f of b equals f of 3, let's just plug in the values. F of b is b minus 1 square plus 1 equals 5, right? So I'll open the square. I'm going to get b square plus 1 minus 2b equals 4. I can take this one to that side. Okay, this is 4, right? Let me just rub the extra things. This is not 14, it's 4. Okay. All right. So is this? Okay. So this is b square minus 2b plus 1 minus 4 equals 0. Finally, I have b square minus 2b minus 3 equals 0. Okay. Now this is a quadratic equation again, and I need to factorize it, right? So I need to think of two numbers. When I multiply them, I get minus 3b square, and when I add them, I get minus 2b. So my two numbers are b square minus 3b plus b minus 3 equals 0. I can take b common, b minus 3 plus 1 common, b minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so I will rub all this, which I did for the, I guess, 7th question. That's why I have more space here. Okay, this much space is enough. And now I can write b plus 1, b minus 3 equals 0. So this means that b equals minus 1 and b equals 3. So clearly the choice would be b equals minus 1 because we already have done for this part, right? We already had this f of 3. So like f of 3 means that here they have used b equals 3 and we are left with b equals minus 1. So C would be the choice, right? Okay. Let's talk about the 9th question now. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So here's the 9th question. A family of 5 is planning a 4-day camping trip. Okay. So we have 5 people and we have 4 days. Okay. Let's just write down all the data in detail. Right. So a family of 5 is planning a 4-day camping trip. Each person will need to bring one bottle of water for each day of the trip. Okay, so this means that one person needs one bottle for one day, right? For each day. This means that in total, if we have 5 people and each of them needs one bottle for each day, in total they would need 5 into 4 bottles, that is 20. Okay. If the water is sold only in 3 bottle packages, all right, how many packages must the family buy for the trip, right? Now here the question is that how many packages? If one package has 3 bottles and if the family wants 20 bottles, how many packages are they going to buy, right? So we need to divide 20 by 3 and we are going to get 6 point something. So this would be 6.67. All right. Now this is what they are getting. So obviously in order to meet the demand of every family member, they would need at least 7 bottles, right? Just so everyone gets one bottle. So they need, this implies they would need 7 bottles. Okay. So the answer is 7 bottles. Okay. So like in SAT, we have two types of questions. We have MCQs and we have gradins as well. So now like these questions are the gradin questions. Okay. Right. So we are done with this part. And the difficulty level varies from easy to difficult. Like in marking scheme, if you check out the difficulty level, you'll find three difficulty levels, right? So you have easy, medium, and difficult. That's hard, sorry. Easy, medium, and hard, I'm sorry. Okay. Now let's discuss the last question, that is the 10th question. What is the value of k that satisfies both equations above? Okay, so we have like two equations. Okay, now I'll tell you one thing. These equations are not that straightforward. Since we have mod, I've been telling my students that whenever you have mod and you need to open up or solve any equation, obviously you need to get rid of mod. And in order to get rid of mod, for every equation, you will get two equations. Okay, so for like this equation, I am going to get two corresponding equations. One would be 10 minus k equals 3 and the other one would be minus into 10 minus k equals 3. Okay, right. So for this, I'm going to get 10 minus 3 equals k. So this implies k is 7. And for this equation, I'm going to get minus 10 plus k equals 3. So this implies that k is 13. Okay. Since I have just told you guys, whenever we have mod in any equation, things are not that straightforward. This one equation would be converted to this equation and this equation. Okay. So for one mod equation, you will get two corresponding equations without mod. Okay. And for this equation, we are getting that k is 7 and let me just write down. Okay. So here we got that k is 7 and k is 13. Okay. Let's do it for the other equation now. So far we have just discussed the first equation, that is 10 minus k mod equals 3. Let's just do it for the second equation as well. Again, steps would be same. I will get two equations when I will get rid of this mod. So I have k minus 5 equals 8. When I'll get rid of this mod, I'm going to get k minus 5 equals 8 and minus k minus 5 equals 8. Okay. So I am going to get k equals 8 plus 5, that is 13. And I'm going to get k minus 5 equals minus 8 and k equals minus 8 plus 5, that is plus 5, that is minus 3. Okay. So clearly, like for both these equations, the common k value is 13, right? The common k value is 13. I'm getting k equals 13 for first equation, and I'm getting k equals 13 for the second equation as well. This means that the value of k which satisfies both equations above is k equals 13. Okay. So we are done for today's session.